I now recognize Mr. Carter, the gentleman from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
5 minutes.
And thank you to the witnesses for joining us today. Advancements in AI technology, as it demands for its use, possesses significant challenges. We must mitigate the associated risks and threats by leveraging AI to improve our national security. I urge my colleagues to support my bill, H.R. 8348, the CISA Securing A1 Task Force Act, which proposes the creation of a dedicated task force within CISA. This task force will focus on addressing safety, security, and accountability challenges posed by AI. Today's discussion is crucial for the American people as we work to tackle these pressing issues. AI is not new. We know that. It's relatively new to the general public, and some of its applications have enormous value. Some of them can be quite frightening. National security, obviously, is major. So I'd like to ask each of you to take a crack at answering the questions relative to civil rights, civil liberties, and privacies in general for the American people. How is this contemplated as we develop further delving into AI? Mr. Demmer?
Well, I defer to my fellow witnesses on this issue, given their expertise, but it is certainly worth a spirited conversation about how we balance national security and civil liberties. What I can say is GECO's focused on building the data sets on the most critical infrastructure in a way that promotes national security.
So I'm a cybersecurity practitioner, as I said, so I'm not, don't know all the ins and outs of the policy itself. But my sense is that when we think about AI and regulation, we got to think of the purpose. So defining what is high risk, right? And then saying, what are the AI use cases that are actually high risk, and focusing on the unique security requirements for them. On the cybersecurity side, I think that security data, those ones and zeros I was talking about earlier, are a little bit not high risk compared to a lot of other technologies that are being rolled out.
At iProve, we take inclusivity by design very seriously. We do regular self-assessments on our own technology. We work with every single independent assessment organization that's out there. We're encouraging more independent assessment organizations. We're encouraging them to stay ahead of the technology. Many times these independent organizations focus on threats or challenges in the past. We need to stay up to speed. We need to stay above and go beyond. We build inclusivity by design, as I mentioned. That includes obviously skin tone, but also cognitive and physical capabilities, making sure that those are taken into consideration in inclusivity. Socioeconomic class as well. Many technology tools are expensive to be able to attain. I just got the iPhone 15 Pro, and I can attest to that. Age is also a very important component, as well as gender. And so making sure that all of those different characteristics of inclusivity are also embedded into the design of AI is an extremely important component of success.
So there certainly is a range. Some systems, like for example, damage assessment systems that DHS uses present lower risks, to maybe no real risks to civil rights and civil liberties. Other technologies such as facial recognition, mobile device analytics, or automated targeting systems, all of which DHS employs, present very significant risks to civil rights and civil liberties. The OMB memorandum on AI puts a good stress on care for civil rights and civil liberties. We hope that's a good step towards development of strong internal guidelines within agencies. But this is an area where transparency and oversight are essential to evaluating the effectiveness of those rules, evaluating whether more steps are needed, and as necessary, prompting Congress to step in and make their own rules. As I mentioned, in the field of facial recognition, there's no current federal laws or regulations for law enforcement use. We think that's something that needs to change.
So the information out is only as good as the information in. So the data becomes paramount. So how do we take into account cultural nuances, natural biases, so that we're not replicating biases that humans have and then become a part of the bias that's in AI? Mr. Amalani?
At iProve, we have a worldwide deployment. And so we operate in Singapore, we operate in Australia, in the UK, in South Africa, in many African countries, as well as Latin American countries, as well as North America. We take very careful consideration of basically making sure that we're seeing all of the threats coming in from all of those locations, but also taking into account all of the data and making sure that we have a representative database that we train on. We go over and above when it comes to making sure that our training data is in fact representative of an overall population. And I would encourage you to be able to include standards and testing and invest in those to make sure that other providers are also doing the same.
So from our standpoint, obviously, as you've heard from the questions here, you'll continue to hear that Congress has real concern on making sure that we learn from the mistakes may not be the right word, but we learn from how fast the internet came, Facebook, Instagram, and all of those things, and they're constantly bringing about new challenges, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How do we learn from that to make sure that we are managing this AI as it unfolds and becomes more prevalent in our society? And I realize that my time has expired, so Mr. Chairman, if you would allow them to answer that, I will yield.
The gentleman can answer the question.
Sure. That's directed at me, I assume.
Yes, or anyone else who cares to take a crack at it.
Thank you, Congressman. Staying on top of all of the different technologies is very important, and making sure that we have independent organizations within the federal government that can have different companies submit their AI to testing, and making sure that we have the right people staffed within those organizations who can stay on top of all of the latest opportunities and threats in the market. Yes, there is a lot of interest that this overall industry has in making sure that basically it's well-represented databases and common standards that we can all adhere to. And I think making sure that those accurate solutions can be in front of the customers for biometric verification is also a very important component. Biometric verification is also something that's very different than biometric recognition. And I want to make sure that we can call out the two differences between the two.
Gentleman's time.